Alright, well it's winter time. I mean, look at me. I'm dressed up. I'm ready for the cold. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, paddles. We're going to talk about your choice of paddles. In the winter time, I do a lot of purchases for the spring and summer. You know, whether you're an avid paddler or you're an adventure racer, you want to look at what paddle is the best for you. And for me, it's kind of been an evolution of paddles. I went from really basic, cheap paddles that I could afford to actually expensive paddles that make paddling long distances so much easier. And this is what I'm going to talk about. This is a Harmony estuary, and this is the first paddle I bought when I bought my first kayak. Now, my first kayak was about 9 feet long and about 3.5 feet wide, so it wasn't very good for speed. As you can see, this paddle is very thin and very wide, and the hydrodynamics of this paddle isn't very good. And in that 9 foot, 3.5 feet wide kayak, I never really went that far. Plus, this is a really heavy paddle. Now, as you can see, because this is a large flat paddle, you're basically just displacing water. You're just basically pushing it. All these paddles I'm going to show you, I'm only going to show you about half of the paddle. They're all kayak paddles. As you can tell, this is a hard plastic construction. Now, a lot of these paddles will have some sort of sleeve on the inside because that's how they join together, the two pieces. But this one has a rather thick aluminum sleeve on the inside. So this is the first one I started with. When you get rental kayaks, you're going to see similar paddles. They're going to be like this because they're very cheap. You can get these for anywhere from $30 to $50. So this is what I started out with. It's not very good. And this is what I picked up. As you notice, it's also Harmony. This is the Mariner, and it's barely a little bit different. Now, the other paddle had plastic over top, the aluminum sleeve. This is actually aluminum all the way through to the plastic paddle itself. So it's plastic, then aluminum. However, the difference between this and the other paddle is that it's a curved shape. I mean, basically, the only difference is the curve. As you can see, the two together, they're almost the exact same size except for the shape. This is curved. So this is going to make for a little bit better aquadynamic, but it's honestly not that good. Better, but not that good. And this was the second one that I got, and I probably paid about the same thing for this. And as you see, Harmony makes a lot of outdoor equipment, particularly in the boating section. So, I went with the same brand because it was a brand I knew. Now, I wanted to get something that was a little bit better and something that was a lot lighter, because I realized in longer events or paddling for longer periods of time, the fatigue of these heavier metal-based paddles made it a lot more difficult. Puts a lot of stress on your shoulders and your upper back. So I got this. I don't remember what brand this is, but I do remember I paid about $100 for it. Pretty much what I paid for those other paddles combined is about what I paid for this. The only difference with this, while you have a plastic paddle at the end, it's more asymmetrical shaped, and it's scooped similar. Now, while they're both scooped, you notice the one on the top, the newer paddle, is scooped a little bit steeper. Also, you notice is it's asymmetrical, and that's what you want. So this is going to get a lot more water, and it's going to move a lot more water a lot better. And this shaft, as you can see, is a composite. I believe this is a little bit of fiberglass and carbon fiber. I think what it is a layer of carbon fiber over fiberglass. With this model, they thicken it up so that you have a little bit thicker grip. You know, that's okay. It kind of works. To be honest, it doesn't really matter, because if you're going to be paddling, you're usually going to be paddling with gloves anyway. At least I do. It just saves the wear and tear on your hands, and it gets slippery. But this was a big jump over the previous paddle, because it combined lighter weight plastics and carbon fiber with an asymmetrical blade shape. But here's the deal. I decided that while that paddle was good, I wanted something that was better. I watched a lot of videos on paddling, and I watched a few races that I'd seen on the internet. Now, as you can see, this paddle is a much better design, and what it's made out of are much better materials. This is primarily carbon fiber with a little bit of plastic. You can see the fittings, the easy fittings to tighten up the paddle are plastic, but the rest of this paddle is carbon fiber. And what that does is it makes for a very light paddle. I think when this thing is complete and you put both pieces together, it weighs about maybe 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds. That being the case, when you're only holding 2 pounds of paddle in your hand, as you can see, it's easier for me to swing it around just with one hand. I can paddle this thing forever. It's not that hard. Because of how light this is, being carbon fiber, I can paddle this a lot longer than I can one of the heavier plastic ones. I mean, you put these two side by side and the weight difference is noticeable. It makes it a joy to paddle. And since it is a wing paddle and scooped like it is, it's more efficient and it's lighter, which translates into speed. All of this translates into speed. Now, this is a Simon River Sports paddle. Epic also makes a great paddle. They're real popular right now. This was real popular about 10 years ago, but they still make great paddles. Now, here's the deal. You're going to have to pay a premium price for this. As I told you, with the other paddle, I paid $100. Well, this is closer to $300. You're paying for the design and the layup of this paddle. I've talked to Simon River Sports when I ordered this, and I ordered some replacement parts for other paddles. They do the layup based on what you want. They ask you how long you want the paddle to be. So basically they're creating the tubes and the paddle when you order it. So it's going to take a little bit longer. They don't always keep these on the shelf as long. So it's kind of nice to have custom made carbon fiber paddles. And I've had this for probably about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And while it's taken a pretty good beating, carbon fiber does have a long shelf life. It's a lot harder to crack because all the fibers interlock. Shell out the big dollars for a paddle that is exactly what you want, that's going to make you a lot faster while you're paddling your kayak, or for that matter your canoe. Remember, you pay for quality. Well, I've shown you lots of different paddles. Paddles I've used in the past and paddles that I currently use in the present and prefer. And what it boils down to is what you're comfortable in spending. What paddle do you actually need? If you're just out recreational paddling in a kayak or a canoe, then you can probably go with one of the cheaper paddles. And it's no big deal because you don't need to spend that money. But if you're competing in adventure sports like I am, then you probably want to go with the one in carbon fiber. I'm Todd with COAR, and this is another episode of Mandatory Gear.